I am injured. I had a bike crash. Yeah, it's okay. It'll heal up. Yeah, I shattered my elbow. I broke my thumb. I broke my collarbone. Broke my bike. But it's okay. Huh? It happened 3 weeks ago, actually. I've been pretty laid up, but I'm starting to feel good. So I don't really know how I crashed. I was knocked out, and I honestly hardly remember climbing the canyon, and I hardly remember the few hours after the crash. What I do know is I was out with my training partner, Else. She had come from the Netherlands to do the build up to Kona with me. She also had qualified, and we were having a great training day. We did a 5 or 6K swim that morning, and then we had a 4-hour ride in the afternoon. So we had a little break, and then we went out on our ride. We climbed Little Cottonwood Canyon, which is an amazing canyon here, not too far from my house. And it's funny because when we were heading out on the ride, I kind of had a thought to myself of like, oh, maybe we shouldn't climb Little Cottonwood. It's a really fast descent. I didn't want my training partner to have troubles with it. But then I just thought, oh, I'm being paranoid. It'll be fine. So we got up and down Little Cottonwood, and then we went to go have lunch at a cafe, and then we set out for Mill Creek Canyon. And this was a Tuesday, and Mill Creek Canyon is a dream to go up in the middle of the week, especially in the middle of the day, because there's just hardly any cars. It's an absolutely charming place to be. And we got to the top and just were loving it, and Else immediately said, hey, I'm going to start heading down because I'm slower than you on the descents. And not that I'm crazy and reckless, but I just have a lot of experience. I've been riding in these mountains for 10 years, and I know how to descend a mountain. So I said, okay, cool, I'll see you at the bottom. I stopped and put my arm warmers on because it was quite chilly at the top. And then I remember starting to go, and that's kind of all I remember. I vaguely remember noticing how narrow the lanes were, which isn't new to me. I've climbed this canyon many times, but it was just one of my remaining thoughts before I crashed was I was thinking how cute and small the lanes were. Before I knew it, I had apparently crashed, and I don't remember any of it, nothing. A man came up to me, Mark, if you saw my post, and he said I was sitting up. I'd sat up and my bike was in front of me, and I was like trying to wave or something, and he stopped and, you know, assessed the situation. And obviously because I was sitting up, I wasn't paralyzed, and he decided to put me into his truck and get me down, because the thing about Mill Creek Canyon is there's no cell phone service, so it would be like a 15-minute drive to get to the bottom, and then call the ambulance, and then wait for an ambulance to drive back up and get me, and then drive back down. I mean, I was at almost the very top. So anyway, Mark picked me up and drove me down the canyon, and I have just like a brief recollection of like the 20th time I asked him, is this real life? And I have like a small memory of looking at his face and him saying, yes, Skye, this is real life. You've been badly injured, but you're going to be okay. You know, you were in a bike wreck. And I do have a little bit of memory of just like the sun coming through the trees up the canyon while I was in the truck. So yeah, then I think I realized, okay, yeah, this is real life. But again, I was in and out. Like, I don't have full memory of this. And then the next thing, the only other memory I have is seeing Else. She had stopped at the bottom of the canyon, and I have like a image of her silhouette, and we stopped and picked her up, and, you know, then we carried on to the ER, and then the ER is kind of in and out. I remember some things, but a lot I don't remember. That's the crash. So I don't know how the crash happened, but I went back up like a week after I'd crashed with some family, and, you know, I just needed some closure. I had time laying in bed just thinking, like, why did this happen? How did this happen? Like, I'm an experienced, smart descender, and not that I'm exempt from a crash, but obviously I wanted to understand where I went wrong or what caused it. Obviously there's freak things, and I think in my case, the stars just aligned. When we went back up there, well, okay, back up. I took this crazy photo after I crashed. I must have gone with this busted elbow and collarbone and got into my back cycling pocket and took my phone out to try to get help, because it's the cement in my legs, and clearly I'm sitting on the ground and it drops a pin where that picture was taken. So I'm assuming that's where I crashed, and so we drove right back up to that spot. We dropped it in the map and drove up. Yeah, so I did see just like 2 small dips in the road. We're not talking potholes, no broken edges, not even a huge dip, but there were kind of 2 dips, and then just to the right there was a crack, and it wasn't even a huge crack, like maybe this long and just wide enough that maybe a bike tire fit in it. So I don't know, I mean, it could have been a moose running out on the road for all I know. Those are up there. But for all I know, I saw the dips, and maybe I moved to the right and the crack grabbed my tire, or maybe it was the dips, or maybe it wasn't any of this. Like, I have no idea. The road wasn't wet, so I don't know. But so the injuries, I broke my thumb, but more specifically, I broke my trapezium, which is the joint, you know, basically what allows us to do all this is what I kind of broke, I think. So I had to have surgery on my thumb and my elbow to put me back together, and so that will help me to heal properly and completely. There's some pins in there, and I basically have to wear this brace until it's all healed. My right side definitely took the brunt of it. My right collarbone is broken, but it's actually a pretty good break, if I do say so myself. It's a clean break and it's non-displaced, so no surgery on that. But then I shattered my elbow, but more specifically it was my olecranon. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But so that now has plates and screws in it, and this is what's going to hold me up the longest. So recovery time for this, they're hoping they can take the plates out by the end of the year, you know, for insurance purposes, but they're not going to rush it. And if we need to take it out in January, because that's better, then we'll get it out in January. But pretty much I'm in this thing with metal plates and screws in my elbow until January. Collarbone is a classic 6 to 8 week healing time, so, you know, beginning in November I should have this back. But to be honest, this hasn't been that bad. Like, I haven't been in that much pain, and I can do a fair bit of movement, and it's okay. We're 3 weeks in already, so it could be halfway healed. And then the thumb, the pins are going to come out November 11th, and then I still have to wear this little brace thing for like 3 to 4 weeks after, just depending. I did have a concussion. I had my helmet on, of course, totally saved my life, but there was a little bleeding outside the brain. But so they put me in the ICU overnight, and they watched the bleeding. I got a CT scan before they released me. Yeah, pretty hefty, bad crash. My bike's busted. The right handlebar is almost completely cracked off. The frame's cracked, and yeah, I busted my pedal up pretty good too. And then, of course, you know, everything I was wearing was cut off. Anyway, it's all gonna be okay, but definitely don't crash your bike. I will say the one thing I'm quite happy about with my bike crash is, well, there's a lot of things. First of all, I'm so grateful that my legs are totally okay. I had some road rash on my knees, but that's almost all gone. But my legs are totally fine, my spine's fine, my neck's fine. You know, the big things that would really either completely change my life or put me out for months and months and months, you know, those are fine. So I'm so grateful. And obviously I'm just grateful to be alive. And then the other thing that I've really been grateful for is that I don't remember the crash, even though it'd be nice to know exactly what happened. I've always been terrified of crashing because I didn't want to experience it. Like, I didn't want to feel the pain or be sitting on the cement, like screaming for help or in pain, or I didn't want to hear my bones breaking. I mean, there's just so many things that I didn't have to experience because, you know, either I was knocked out or my brain just completely, you know, decided to block it out. So as it is now, like, I'm not in fear to go back out and ride my bike. By the time I can ride my bike again, it'll be winter, so it won't matter, but I'm not afraid to ride my bike. I'm sure the first time I go up a canyon and come down, I will be on my brakes pretty hard. Well, I plan to do more videos to keep you up to date on my recovery and my training, so if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks, guys.